We're going to continue reading. When Napoleon Hill interviewed 500 of the world's richest, most successful people to find out the secret of their success, he discovered that they all used a similar process. They had an intuitive council, a set of intuitive guides they would consult with whenever they were going to do business deals and before they made any decisions. When they were using intuitive sensory perception, and their guides were mature holodynes. This is one of our greatest secrets, and it's so simple. Success means using ISP, accessing the holodynes on the holodynamic plane, making sure they are mature and listening to their counsel, so you can potentialize any given situation. Again, I'm finding more and more that when you want to understand the psychopathic mentality, there's always a doctor or a motivational speaker involved. So while there's this little message of, if you want to be successful, use these guides and everything, they didn't include this guy, this doctor knows that you want to be financially successful, so he's going to tell you what it is you want, because that's what you want, is to be financially successful. That's what we all want. But at the end of the day, if you think these are mature holodynes, then you're going to believe it. And let's face it, this guy wrote this book, and yet it's not a bestseller. So his full potential is making sure that what he really, really wants from a soul basis, because if you read these books, this guy, this doctor, his soul wants to clean the biosphere. His sole purpose is to heal the planet. So he's not going to be successful at marketing these books because of the contradictions within it. And he does have issues with money, and this is one of them. And while he thinks they are matured, he didn't involve the whole. So when you're going to earn a lot of profit, you're not recognizing, even though I've had a few conversations with this doctor, and he kind of does know it, but it's not really up in his awareness yet, that poverty is created by great wealth. If you only have $10 in the world, and there's only 10 people, and they all have an equal share, the guy that's really successful financially, the 1%, the one guy has all $10, leaving 9 people in poverty. So what happened? The guy that's at the top, was looking at success as being taking away something from somebody else. And that's not a mature way of looking at the world. And personally, if this Dr. Wolf kind of put those pieces of the puzzle together, he'd be cleaning the biosphere. But he's kind of locked into his own insanity because of the way he sees success and money. And yet it's in his books, get insane and go for the money. And it's because that last final step in this, this universal well-being, that's like the last stages of maturity. Updrafting is to know that you're a oneness. If you can't connect the dots that your wealth creates poverty, then you aren't paying attention to your oneness. You have a knowing. You instantly know that what you do will affect and do harm to somebody else. He doesn't know that. Empowering, loving, attuned. This guy thinks I'm his enemy. This guy did not treat me lovingly at all. I found all of this information when I had this big all-knowing sort of thing. All information hit me all at once. And it was like, okay, now I need the science that proves it. And instantly, this information popped into my lap. I found all of his work instantly. And I phoned him up and asked him what it is that he was doing with all of this stuff. And right away, walls went up, that the conversation didn't seem to flow as well. And he started tracking me. And that tracking process involves two people. You need a tracker to track the tracker to make sure that the tracker isn't influencing his perception of reality onto somebody else. And that is more powerful when you're asking questions, because your questions sort of open up your reality to what's really going on, because you're forced to answer it. Instead of giving somebody advice, it's best to ask you questions, so you're forced to give, yourself the answers to the questions being asked, which, anyways, this guy was kind of screwed up. But in the meantime, I was also telling him about the severe abuse that I was dealing with, and that I was looking for one other soul to help. This guy had zero interest in helping me at all. The only time this guy would communicate with me is if I knew of a connection that would offer him a lot of money. So, but if I was asking him for my personal help, like if he could help me, he rejected that all the time. He was not showing any love. And another ironic thing is, my son, who is extremely smart, that tends to think all of this stuff is bullshit, won't even open the book, just to automatically assume that it's bullshit and it's evil and it's really, really wrong, which I found odd because he didn't even know anything about it. And my son phoned this guy, totally angry at this Dr. Wolf, telling him, you're wrong, and apparently this Dr. Wolf was trying to tell my son that he was attracting the experiences that he wanted, and if he wanted to change, that my son needed to change the way he perceived everything. But right now, every single thing that was happening was on my son, which was true, perfect advice. But at the same time, did this Dr. Wolf pay attention to why people are phoning him and telling him your shit doesn't work? Something is coming within Dr. Wolf that people are telling him all along, there's a few flaws within your work, but and he's attracting that, but he's not paying attention to that. And let's see why. Because he's choosing downdrafting decisions. He's detached himself and thinks he knows all. He's obsessed with his own way of thinking. He's got tyrannical ways of thinking. There's another one. He's a judger. His social well-being is all screwed up. He'd be working at teamwork. Didn't want to team up with me. He didn't seem to have trust. He blocked off the conversation right then. He was not cooperating with me at all. He was the downdrafting things that he was doing is he was telling you what I should be doing. He was rule-bound and role-bound, and he's a judger, There's just about everything that he's doing is in a downdrafting. He's a victim. He was poisoned with high-grade uranium. He doesn't see that he ended up designing a system that can transform all toxic waste into pure, clean energy because somebody tried to kill him. So he doesn't see that that was a really amazing thing that he went through. Instead, his heart was broken to the point where he needs technology to keep his heart running. And yet he can cure everybody else's heart problem, but not his own. He seems to be in anger. He is in denial. He is in fear. He is self-defeating. Every one of these downdrafting things is what this Dr. Wolf is doing. Why? Because he can't recognize his own unknown problem, which are his complaints. He makes a lot of complaints, but doesn't transform them. He goes out into the world and says, if the world just did this or just did that. Anyways, continuing on. Brilliant guy, but like I say, it is a tool that can solve every problem known to the human experience, but you just got to identify the unknown problem, and that is what scientists have a huge problem with. They don't want to identify the unknown problem, because then they'll see that they are the problem. And we don't want to look internally. We always look in our universal world. So it's kind of funny when you look at it just from that perspective. But use the tool. The tool is amazing. How can you apply this in your daily life? You can learn to track. Tracking is a simple, effective way to access your holodynes and take them up through the natural order of their own growth. Tracking is an internal process by which you can unfold the fullest potential of your mind. Perfect advice. I do that all the time, but it is, I don't necessarily use just this. I definitely focus on this water, which today, this one, there's 6 different intentions of water. This one is prosperity and abundance. And the goal is to feel what it feels like to be prosperous and full of abundance. And every day I feel like I've got enough. Every day I'm enjoying my life. Every day I get exactly what I need. No more, no less. It also has on there no complaints and no excuses, and that's to constantly be aware of anything that I make a complaint about. It's not about don't make any complaints. It's about turn the volume up on your complaints. That is what the new way of doing things is Wayne Dyer has cancer because he's got this in an interview. He says, as soon as your brain goes down into a negative path, that's the time you're supposed to go, oops, there goes my brain again. And this tapping thing is, it is severe brainwashing on block your problems out and focus on the positive. Focus on the positive. I'm a positive person. I'm a positive person. And then that makes you block out things that you would have complained about. Your brain is a perfect little computer. It goes down that wrong path for you to pay attention to it. Something's wrong in your universe. But as long as you're not going to pay attention to it and transform it, you're going to always have issues no matter how positive you think. So this is like a dual thing. It's sort of like God and evil in the same bottle, because it makes you focus on what's good so you create what's good, but it also makes you pay attention to your unknown problem. And that's all the energy you need is just to find the problem. And then that's it. Don't focus on it. Don't it's like, oh, here's the room. Here's the complaint. It's in this room. What is it you want? Let me give you what it is you want. Focus on the solution end of it at all times, and don't get caught up in the problem. So I know that I'm going to attract every single thing that I need. I know what I wanted to do is produce videos, and I'm doing that. I don't want a large channel because I love that communication. Kind of against leaders, so if I had a really huge volume, then it'd be me pushing out my ideas and not receiving information, and that's the downside of any motivational speaker or anybody that gets to be really, really famous is they lose tune with the audience. And I kind of like hearing what my audience is, and it's not like you are my audience, you're part of my family. And it's like I'm offering what I know, but I want to know what you know. I want to see what you see inside me, because you usually are the last to see your own insanity. So if I lose that tapped into others that can see things I don't see, then I'm going to be getting deep into a huge problem. Because I do not have all the answers. The only way I'm going to know all the answers is when the whole body can communicate effectively. So I am running out of time with this one. I'm on to the next chapter, which is tracking. Behind every problem is a holodyne waiting to be tracked. So I'm going to continue that chapter on another tape because I'm running out of time on this one. But be global thinkers. Make updrafting decisions, not downdrafting, or you might turn into Dr. Wolf, who's got an amazing concept, but what do you do with something that's amazing? Like, what is Dr. Wolf's complaint? I would like everybody to email him and ask him, what is your biggest complaint? And if he's got any complaints, how come he ain't tracking them? Because if he got it, the world would get it. He said.